be sharing with you all today the apartments that I looked at in my apartment hunt. So I'm currently in my new apartment, which I will reveal to you eventually. But I wanted to share with you our apartment search and the process of how we ended up here. So if that sounds like something you would be into, please keep on watching. So about 2 weeks ago, over the course of 2 days, my roommate and I visited, I think, 12 apartments in total. I am going to take you through the details of each apartment. I'm going to talk about the prices, the neighborhood, the location, what was good about the apartment, what wasn't good about the apartment, all of the above. The apartments that we saw are definitely not going to be those like high-rise apartments that I see a lot of people posting videos about. That is so not even our style. So these are going to be a little bit more on the opposite end of the budget, more of like affordable asterisk. To keep it all top secret, I chose to film in front of a sort of plain and simple wall, which is part of why I've decided to jazz this video up with this top that is just the most colorful thing that I own. Let's talk about what we were looking for in an apartment. So we needed to find a 2-bedroom apartment under $2,500 in total. So both of us were willing to put forward $1,250 each. Ideally, we wanted an apartment with big, even-sized bedrooms. We both love sunny apartments, so we really wanted a sun-filled apartment. And we needed at least 2 closets, 1 for each roommate. If we found a place that seemed like it could work for us and the bedrooms were not even, we were willing to make that adjustment, and one of us would pay more and one of us would pay less. So our budget is $2,500, but we were really only willing to pay that if we felt like we were getting a really good deal with lots of amenities, or what we were calling bonuses. The 4 bonuses that we were considering in order to pay our full budget on rent. We were interested in there being laundry in unit or even in building, not necessarily common in New York City. Additional rooms, like another bedroom or an office space, something like that, that was appealing to us as well. Outdoor space, so balconies. I mean, if you live in New York City, especially during the pandemic, you know that outdoor space is so highly coveted, and just have your own private outdoor space. Like, oh, what a luxury. 2 bathrooms, so a 2-bed, 2-bath, so that we could both have our own separate spaces in the bathroom. We also were interested style-wise. We liked older buildings. We like something that has a little bit more character. I'm probably going to make an entire video on this, but right now the market in New York City is totally unlike it has ever been ever before, and so we were able to make the decision that we were not willing to pay a broker's fee. We were not flexible really on that. You'll hear more about that with some of the apartments that we end up running into. A lot of times in New York, you have to pay a broker's fee, and the broker's fee can be a month's rent or it can be 15% of the annual rent. Either way, it ends up being thousands of dollars. We were willing to look at a variety of buildings, but a lot of buildings in this area have been like renovated, and the renovations, in our opinion, are kind of on the tacky side, and the price of the apartment ends up being overpriced because of these renovations, and we didn't always like those renovations. There are a few apartments that we did look at that have a little bit of this style, and I'll point that out to you guys. So the 2 neighborhoods that we were looking at were Greenpoint and Williamsburg. We've lived in Williamsburg together, and we both just know that we love this area, and so we were trying to just sort of stay as close to our old neighborhood as we could. With that, let's talk about the first apartment. Place to start off the day because it was kind of in the middle of our budget. It was $2,300 for a 2-bedroom in Greenpoint. So my cinematography of this first apartment isn't the best. This apartment had a railroad style layout, meaning that the bedrooms were on opposite ends of the apartment with a shared space in the center. Both bedrooms were super sunny, great windows, good closet space. With this type of layout, you usually don't get any natural light in the living room and kitchen. One of the bedrooms did have a cutout that let in some natural light, but it was a relatively dark area overall. The kitchen was newly updated and even had a dishwasher. The previous tenants did leave some additional furniture to sort of extend the kitchen, which made it a little bit more functional, and I thought those were nice little extras for the apartment. The bathroom was nice. It was very simple, but plenty big enough for 2 people. My roommate and I were honestly, it was the first apartment we saw that day, but we both were like, this could work. We totally felt like it was good. It was in a great location. We really like the Greenpoint area, so this was definitely a contender. And then the broker told us that they had a broker's fee on the apartment. And he even offered us, he was like, you know, I'm doing a friends and family discount right now and I could give that to you guys, it'd be $500 off, but we would still be out like almost $2,000 in addition to paying rent on the apartment. And just for what we would be getting with the dark common space, this just wasn't going to work for us. What was really sweet though was we were running late to our next appointment, and this broker actually drove us there and talked to us a lot about pandemic pricing and what we should sort of expect for the rest of the day, which he did not have to do that, and he was really sweet. He gave us a lot of really important information that set us up for success for the rest of the day. He even went on to tell us that the price on the apartment we had just seen was flexible and that he thought he would be able to get the rent lowered. And he was trying to convince us that even if we did pay the broker's fee up front, that over time, if he was able to get the rent discounted, that it would all even out, which I guess is true, but we were trying to put down the least amount of money possible up front. What he did share with us though, was that he kind of encouraged us that throughout our search to negotiate with these landlords and that people were very flexible on prices, which was great, and we definitely did that over the next couple of days. On to the next apartment. So this apartment is very different. This apartment was located in East Williamsburg. It's actually right next to where we used to live, so we were very familiar with the area. We already had really great vibes. We were like, yes, this could be our place. The location and price on this apartment are what really made this apartment appealing to us. So it was $1,990, which would mean we would both pay less than $1,000 a month on rent to live in New York City, which in my opinion is a steal. So this apartment had a very unique layout. So you go into the apartment and you're in the living room / kitchen, which was very small, and there were no windows. So it was small and dark. The kitchen was kind of ugly, I can't lie, but we both were convinced that we could DIY it if we needed to and sort of update the kitchen and make it a cute space. This apartment had beautiful hardwood floors. The bedrooms were huge and had really beautiful windows, super sunny, big closets. The bathroom also kind of charmed us. It had this vintage green tile that honestly I kind of loved. We also just got really good vibes from the building. We were going to be renting directly from the owner of the building. There was no broker. It was the owner's son showed us the property. We knew the neighborhood so well. So this actually is immediately, this is like the front runner and kind of what we started comparing the next apartments to. Okay, so the next apartment. Apartment 3 is also located in Williamsburg. It was listed for $2,500, so top of our budget, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. That it had 2 bathrooms, that was really cool to us, and that's pretty much why we were interested in looking at this apartment, even though it was at the top of our budget. So as you can see, it is a renovated apartment. So this building is a new building in Williamsburg, and as soon as we walked in, we got really weird vibes. And we already were kind of on the fence about the building because we had seen online some of the pictures of the building and we didn't really like the finishings. This was one of those that I mentioned where it was completely new, but it was like whoever renovated it made all of these design choices for the tenants that were kind of bold and obnoxious and didn't exactly look like they were high quality. Like, I'd rather live in something that's maybe a little bit older, but like really high quality versus something that's brand new and will break before my lease is up. The other thing about this apartment was that there were no closets. Not a closet anywhere. And there is even a door that is floating in the middle of the apartment in the living room. And we went to open it and the broker's like, oh, that's actually just the water heater. But then after talking to the broker, we discovered that the rent on this apartment was not $2,500, but it was $2,650, which we both were like, what? Why is it listed online for $2,500? And this is something I'm going to make another video in the future about renting in New York City. But right now, a lot of brokers are listing apartments at one price and the actual price is higher, and what they're doing is they're doing what they're calling a net effective rate. So what she was saying to us is that we would be getting certain months free where we would not have to pay rent, but for the months that we did pay rent, we would have to pay a higher price. So very quickly, my roommate and I were like, nope, gotta go. No closets, over budget by a lot, and ugly finishings. So, no. Moving on. This next apartment that we saw was back in Greenpoint, and it was $2,100. So, back in the part of our budget that we feel a little bit more comfy in, so we had high hopes for this apartment. We were able to do a contactless viewing, which is basically where the broker gives you a code and you're able to have access to the apartment alone, and that's just a COVID precaution. Honestly, it was like a really good size. It honestly was very practical. It was definitely outdated, but we kind of found it charming. The cabinets had really cute knobs on them, and there's a ton of counter space, tons of storage space, so it was a very practical kitchen. The bedrooms are not even sized, which we did not like. One of the bedrooms, the smaller bedroom had 2 windows, the bigger bedroom only had 1 window. And then we just sort of started to notice the problems with the apartment really quickly. Like, the floor wasn't very well maintained. Honestly, walking up the stairs to the apartment, the building didn't seem very well maintained. The kitchen also had this like really weird window that just faced another building. There was just nothing on the other side of the window in the middle of the kitchen, which is so depressing. The bathroom actually was really cute. It had these like really cute little tiles with like flowers on them. I kind of thought that was charming. But even though the price was really good on this apartment, it just seemed like things would break a lot. It was actually, even though it was in Greenpoint, which we loved, it was kind of far from the train. The apartment was super sunny though. It clearly had great light. The bedrooms being small though was just kind of not what we were looking for, and it did have a big kitchen and living room shared space, but that wasn't really what we were in the market for. So the next apartment, apartment 5. It's a pretty apartment. This apartment was listed at $2,400. So, this apartment. So this apartment was back in Williamsburg. It was in East Williamsburg. So this unit is in an elevator building, which is very fancy in my opinion. I've never lived in an elevator building. It's the only elevator building that we looked at. It has huge south-facing windows, and it already has AC units in all rooms, both bedrooms and in the shared space, which is also such a huge perk. This building had laundry in building. It had roof access. It had what they were calling a gym, which was really just like some old sketchy workout machines in the basement. But whatever, we can call it a gym. Everybody likes a treadmill, come on. This apartment had gorgeous sunlight. It had south-facing windows, so it was super sunny. I actually visited this apartment twice. I went to this apartment before these 2 days that I lived with my roommate. I took another friend and went a couple days before because they were, when I reached out to the broker, he made it seem like the apartment was going to go really quickly. So I was like, well, can I see it tomorrow? Because it was that good. This apartment had a really simple bathroom with a lot of storage, which is great for 2 people. It had a huge common space. It kind of had like a living room and a dining room almost. The kitchen was also really big. I think you call that a galley kitchen because there's kitchen on both sides. It had a dishwasher, which again, not a bonus we wanted, but a bonus that we would love to have. The bedrooms were good size, definitely not huge like some of the bedrooms that we had seen that day. But we just got really good vibes from the apartment itself. I'm going to end this video on this apartment, and I will tell you this. We did end up putting an offer on this apartment. We put in an offer for $2,200 a month instead of $2,400, and our offer was accepted. The problem is, we were getting really weird vibes from the broker. And not only the broker, but the broker was one guy, and I saw the apartment twice. 2 different guys showed me the apartment, neither of which were the broker. I was supposed to be in a group text with all of them, but then they would privately text me. I think they were all trying to get the broker's fee from the apartment complex. They also were sort of indicating to us that even though we could pay $2,200 this year every month for rent, that next year, when hopefully, knock on wood, the pandemic is sort of behind us, basically they said that our rent would like skyrocket. They didn't explicitly say that, and they definitely didn't attach a number to it, but you can look at these apartments online and see what they went for last year. And if the number is a huge difference, the rent could feasibly go back up to that old number that it was in 2019. So we held on to this in our back pockets. I'm not going to tell you which apartment we end up getting. Next video, I'll show you, I think I have 6 or 7 more apartments to show you in these same neighborhoods. And at the end of that video, I will share with you which apartment we ended up getting that I am currently in right now. So, okay, I hope you are having a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video.